He lays out and makes the catch.
And we are back for another episode of the Double Switch Podcast. Friday night episode. I have the off-season blues already. I have taken the past 2 weeks, and all I've done is I've been thinking. You know, I'm like Aristotle. I've been just thinking about the future, and there's a lot to think about because ideas are flowing, players are moving, and so many moving pieces to this baseball team. And a lot of questions facing this team that, you know, I'd love to get on here and just talk through them before we even start to think about how we're going to approach this offseason. Johnny, have you recovered? Time heals everything, and the Phils season, it's starting to, you know, the 2023 season's starting to age, and I'm doing a little better. What about you?
Yeah, I'm alive. but I miss ball. I miss talking ball. I miss watching some good Phils ball. Yeah. The whole anger has subsided, and now I also ponder during my boring days at work, how can this team get better? How can we reconstruct it in like small ways to get just better? And that's kind of where I'm at in headspace with baseball.
Yeah, the issue I've been facing is last year it was so clear what we had to do. You just knew who was out there. You knew the personnel that were available. Trey Turner, I mean, the moment the season ended, it felt like he was already Philly. It was just clear as day what the Phils could improve on. Right now, for us and for the team and for the front office, it's not as easy. You have pieces leaving, which obviously we're going to have to replace, but there's no spot that you look to and say, hey, you know, we can upgrade that position with this guy. It's very complicated, and you can already see that not many people really have a firm grasp on what to do either, because there's rumors aplenty. I've seen already. I guess this is going to be like our plot for the episode. Bryce Harper wants to play first, so Rhys will not be back, presumably. Blake Snell, I've heard his name mentioned. Sonny Gray, his name's been mentioned as us talking to them. Aaron Nola, obviously still out there. He is probably the biggest domino that has to fall before we really go about the offseason. Trade names, I mean, you have Nick Castellanos, you have Taijuan Walker. I think that's kind of the two big names. I don't know if I've seen anybody else in trade talk, but yeah, you have trade talk, and then we'll save it for the end of the episode, kind of the last big name that we're getting towards. But yeah, Johnny, I mean, where do you even want to start? I'll just throw this to you. You pick a name.
Well, I think the place to start is with Rhys Hoskins, because it's really sad, and I like to get sad things out of the way early. Yeah, I mean, Dave came out and basically said that, barring anything crazy with Rhys's decision process, that Bryce Harper is going to be our first baseman moving forward. And I think a lot of us kind of feel like that is the right move. I mean, as far as like constructing a good defense and a good lineup. But man, I mean, Rhys was that guy when baseball really sucked in Philly. And I know you remember him coming up and him mashing home runs, and it's been a really fun run with Rhys Hoskins, and it just feels like he has to be like the sacrificial lamb for us to like reach the next level. And I wish it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it's a pretty good place to start. He was the first player in just a string of just awful years where we finally looked to the team and said, hey, we might have a guy who can actually be good instead of just having a team of just sucky players. He was the first guy. I guess Nola was the first guy, but it's different with position players. Like, he was the first impact bat that we kind of could project towards better teams. And he's been here since 2017. So I guess my senior year of high school. Nola's been here since my sophomore year of high school, our sophomore year, since we're the same age. That's insane. And it's a big chunk of my life that I've been watching Rhys Hoskins. He's an awesome person. Him and his wife have been just amazing ambassadors for the team. He's a really good ball player too. Say what you want about him. There were ups and downs, but at the end of the season, you could pencil him in for 250 and 30 home runs. And there's so much value in just knowing what you're going to get out of a player. And he provided that each year. So going out on this kind of wasted season is going to sting for him. It's going to kind of sting for us as fans because it feels like a bad way for a player to go out. But it's just the way baseball works. You look at the roster and you look at who's the face of the team. I mean, it's Bryce Harper. You have his priorities ahead of everybody else's, as you should. He's your biggest investment and kind of the guy. And as he's going to get older, he's going to need a place to play. And he looked very good at first base. He's definitely athletic enough to play it. It's probably going to keep him healthier. It makes sense. It just sucks. That's just the summary of it. Some team out there is going to get a really good player and a really good person to plug in at first base.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a good situation for him. He would probably have to take a lesser deal to play here if he wanted to come back in any way. But for him, I mean, he wasn't a high draft pick. He really hasn't been making a lot of money his whole career. It's actually good for him and his family. They get to go somewhere and kind of cash out and make some money. And I've seen some options like San Francisco. He's at hometown Sacramento, so that could be a really cool option. I saw the Twins are even interested in him. And, there's a lot of people that need a first baseman. So it's not a bad day to be Rhys Hoskins.
Padres, Cubs, I think I saw their name mentioned.
Marlins, Josh Bell opted out.
Marlins, yeah. Whoever signs him, he's probably going to be underpaid, honestly. Like, I think he's going to go back to kind of being the Rhys Hoskins we knew because he never relied on athleticism anyway. So tearing an ACL, it shouldn't be a huge problem for him. He's probably going to bounce back. And you said he might get a multi-year deal. Even if he did come back to Philly, it's probably a 1-year thing. So it does make sense for him to look elsewhere. And he will always have given us probably, a lot of memorable moments from this kind of core. But I think his bat spike's probably number 2, right, in terms of just memorable moments from that postseason run. We'll never forget it. It was an amazing moment, and wishing the best for him.
Yeah, no, he honestly was kind of the tone setter for this team for a pretty long time. I mean, oh my gosh. Do you remember the pitcher where he did that super slow walk against the Mets? He hit the home run and he basically walked around the bases to troll him. I love that Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins did embody how this fan base is. I know everyone sees how Harper's that guy now, but it was always Rhys Hoskins before Bryce Harper. And I think Rhys deserves that credit.
Yeah, he does. Wishing the best for him. It does. It's crappy too because you kind of feel like the team's losing a little piece of their soul because Rhys has been there forever. But we have enough clubhouse guys that I think that it'll be okay. But the main plot line there is Bryce is probably going to be our first baseman, which kind of leads us to the next player on our list. Will Nick Castellanos be traded is like a huge question, and I have no idea what to think because I saw reports that the team might look into it. I don't know if it was verified. And then just earlier, a couple hours ago, I don't know if you saw it, somebody from the Phillies organization said they have no interest in doing that. What's your read on that, and do you think that would be something that would kind of make sense?
My gut reaction after seeing it all kind of like unfold online, I kind of thought it was bullshit. I thought it was cap, as the kids are saying, but it does make sense. I mean, because his approach we saw, it's just too inconsistent. We have too many guys. Hoskins was one of them. They just have a very inconsistent approach at the plate. I guess Hoskins is a little more walk-based than Castellanos is, and so that kind of separates them a little bit. But I think it does make sense if you're going out and getting a bigger fish, that maybe a bigger trout that is a little more contact-based and less swing and miss.
I don't think it's going to happen because why would you rule out Reese Hoskins so early if you thought there was a chance that he might be back and playing first base on a partial basis? I think it's probably accredited to people who are just kind of using the trendy topic to their advantage. You know, Nick Castellanos kind of ended his season on a really poor note.
Yeah.
A lot of Phillies fans were really mad at him. So when you see an article that says they might trade him, those people with their strong feelings are going to click on that article. Kind of feels like clickbait. But there are some.
To clarify, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen because he is important, and more the biggest reason it's not going to happen is it would be really hard too, because even though he was good, there's not a team that's going to be lining up to take on his contract. But you know, kind of playing the devil's advocate here. Yeah, the Dodgers are, you know, a bad contract swap where we would kind of go after a player who is owed a lot of money, who's not really going in the right direction would make sense. But I don't know, like I don't have an idea for that.
Not me either.
Those trades are hard. Like they're really hard to come up with stuff.
Yeah.
But what people are saying is completely true. His value might never be higher as a Phillies player. And he might not ever perform at the level he did this year. He's 32 already. His approach is hot garbage, and that's not going to get better. And as his physical skills decline, he's going to be a worse ball player, especially in the field too. He's just going to get slower. And 35-year-old Nick Castellanos isn't going to be a good player. And if you were going to trade him, now would be the best time to do it. But with that being said, it's probably not happening.
I don't fully buy into the whole idea that this is the highest his value will ever be as a Philly. I feel like that we could still see Nick Castellanos have a career year. I think his approach since he was in Cincinnati and Detroit, I mean, it's kind of evolved. It's changed a lot. I feel like he's changed too much. And if he could just kind of, I think he is a really good hitter. I just think he's in between approaches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, his approach in terms of like quality has gone like up and it's going back down. He was a really good hitter in Cincinnati, and that's kind of why we paid him. And when we gave him 5 years, you kind of hope that years 1, 2, and 3 were going to be the good years. And they've been okay, but yeah, just 35-year-old Nick Castellanos, you don't want that on your team. But even with all that being said, it doesn't really, there's nothing actionable you can do about it. I mean, no one's going to really take the money unless you find a partner who has the space for it and the need for the bat, which is there's not a clear option for that. So I think the likeliest outcome is he's playing right field come opening day.
Yeah, I don't really see that as a bad thing. I think there's other areas where we can improve.
Yeah,
positions.
Yeah, I guess that's a good transition point here, because the one thing Dombrowski said, which I thought was interesting, was he thinks the position player core is intact, which people aren't really talking about that enough. Like he pretty much said that he thinks he's done with hitters. So all the speculation we're kind of doing is probably for nothing. I really do think that he's looking at this team and thinking he has enough in terms of bats, and he's going to turn his attention to the pitching staff, which should be the biggest concern right now, because
we need a left fielder.
Do we, or is Brandon Marsh the left fielder? You don't think so?
Brandon Marsh is probably going to end up in center field. I think Rojas starts in AAA.
I don't think they're set on going out and getting a left fielder. I think that they're considering their options. You know, I just don't think that we should expect a left fielder to be signed. But if a left fielder was signed, I wouldn't be shocked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Because I really do think that they look at Pache, Marsh, and Rojas and think they can get viable production and good defense out of left and center field with that trio.
Yeah, but I think we learned that viable production, we need to be a little more. We have to reach further than just viable. We need someone that like is a plus, like option.
Okay. I wasn't super prepared to talk about that, so let's table that.
But
our free agency preview because
for sure. Just thought I'd
I wasn't thinking about that yet, but now that you said it, I will kind of look into our options there. But one thing for sure, pitching staff is really the topic for the front office right now. I have seen this is just like digesting rumors that we're doing. I've seen an article that said, well, one, we've been connected to Sonny Gray. That's like a fact.
It makes a ton of sense.
Been talking to him. I like Sonny Gray. I don't know if I would expect Aaron Nola level production out of a 34-year-old Sonny Gray, but I don't even know if he's being brought in to replace Nola. He might just be another guy in the rotation, but he's got good stuff and he's been doing it for a really long time. He's 34, which is just insane. The one thing about that is his time in New York, another really big market, went terribly. But it's, that's the Yankees and they don't have a ton of success getting the best out of their players anyway. So it's not a huge deal.
Especially pitchers. They butcher anyone they put their hands on. Yeah,
connecting Sonny Gray back with Caleb Cotham, who he was with at Vanderbilt and
they're roommates
in Cincinnati. Yeah, I just figured that out. Were they
teammates?
Both players? Or
yeah,
I guess a coach wouldn't room with a player, but no, that's crazy.
They're the same age.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. They getting those two back together is probably a good idea, and I'm sure that's what they're thinking too. I have seen an article that said, real quick, anything on Sonny Gray? I don't want to go forth.
I think I feel pretty similarly. I don't have like contrasting views really here, but I wish Sonny Gray could just take the spot of Taijuan Walker and we could, and then this wouldn't, we're not talking about Sonny Gray as a Nola or like top level replacement. If we had like 3 Ranger, 4 Sonny Gray, 5 Chris Sanchez, I would love that. But no, we're not talking like that because we went out and signed someone just to sign someone last year.
The projections I'm seeing for Sonny Gray are 3 and like 60 or 70, and Taijuan Walker's 3 over 50. So he's killing the vibe.
Yeah, he's you just think about the possibilities and like the payroll flexibility the team would have if like they didn't get impulsive and make that move. Because this is a pretty good like pitching like free agency class. There's even like bounce back opportunities like with like Severino. I mean, the Yankees don't know what they're doing with pitchers. Like a team should definitely take a flyer on Severino.
Yeah, there's just more interesting names than Taijuan Walker, who on top of that, I mean, he's complaining about coaching. Like, first off, you stink. Second off, you're complaining and kind of messing with the team vibe. Just, I looked into bad contract swaps, and I don't think it's happening with him either. He's so overpaid.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, ain't it?
Yeah, brutal. But that would be nice if we could swap out Sonny Gray for Taijuan Walker. I'll suggest that next time I speak to Dave Dombrowski. I'll see what he says. Blake Snell.
Before we move on, though, before we get on Blake Snell, crazy that Chris Bassett was cheaper option.
Nathan Eovaldi.
I mean, I get why people don't sign him. They can't stay healthy, but he's a beast.
My friend was actually talking, and he came up with a really good idea. When you get a team like ours who, like, you're fairly certain a team can get to the playoffs, like, you're pretty sure that the Phils are going to get to the playoffs after we signed Trey last year, wouldn't it make sense to just kind of go for guys that are known postseason commodities and can definitely perform? Because instead of Taijuan Walker and Craig Kimbrell, we could have had Eovaldi, who's like a postseason legend. And I don't know of a good postseason closer. Kenley Jansen. That might not be.
Someone.
Don't quote me on that. Yeah, someone. Yeah, but you have guys, instead of like building a team for the regular season, you're building a team for the postseason, which I think we've suggested before. But that might be an interesting thought. Because I would have rather. I wish Nathan Eovaldi in game 2 or 3, and then you're running out Wheeler, Eovaldi, Nola Ranger with the same payroll, and Eovaldi got less years. Hindsight's 2020, but man, what could have been?
Yeah, it really did feel like last offseason we saw what happened in like Houston, that we had a good thump with like we had like two guys and like Ranger and Wheeler were kind of firing. Nola was just all right that year. We knew that we needed to like solidify like that top four, because there comes a time and like when those series get longer where like the bullpen games get sketchy, and it would be nice to have a dog pitch in a game like that.
Yeah, what happened was they saw what happened to the Phils last October, and what they thought the solution might be is they needed a guy who could throw innings, which is why they brought Taijuan Walker in. They wanted a guy who could go out every fifth day and just provide innings, versus what we should have done is gotten a guy who can start a game in the playoffs and isn't watching from the top step like Taijuan Walker was.
They got a Kyle Gibson 2.0.
Yeah, and we gave him way more money and way more years. It stinks, and it's going to keep hurting. But
yeah, you get some of these bad things with the Dave Dombrowski experience. It's not all beautiful. I mean, he's going to overpay. That's kind of his MO.
Yeah, he's gonna take some shots. That's for sure. You're never gonna get mad at him for not shooting. He's going to take shots on guys, and he's going to throw some money around, but it doesn't always work. And a possible another shot that Dombrowski might take, and I'm praying that he doesn't, because I don't think this is going to work either. I do not want Blake Snell on my baseball team. It's not personal. I think that he's a good pitcher, but I think that it's the worst time to sign a Blake Snell. And just signing someone like Aaron Nola, who gives you so many innings. Blake Snell is like a 5-inning machine, which is fine, but you're replacing a horse with someone who's just as inconsistent as Aaron Nola, probably worse, who he's going to get paid, dude. And I just don't see it working out. It feels like a mistake. And that it doesn't always feel that way. Like sometimes I can rationalize both sides of it, but I feel like signing Blake Snell would be a huge mistake.
Yeah. I tend to feel similarly. I mean, Blake Snell, nothing against the season he had this year, phenomenal. But you look at his 8-year career, and it was 2018 or 2019, whichever year he was Rookie of the Year, Cy Young. Aside from that year, and this year, there's nothing that's even close to the outcome. So, like, I'll say it. I mean, Blake Snell is less consistent than Aaron Nola.
Blake Snell is.
You don't know what you're getting, and we'd be buying high. You don't buy this high on a guy ever, as far as I'm concerned. Because our expectations for him are going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, so a couple notes on Blake Snell. I just don't think that the inconsistency, the way he pitches, is going to work in Philadelphia. It's going to drive people nuts. He has it for 3 months, and he's like the best pitcher in baseball. But when he loses it, he's like borderline unstartable. And he's a guy who 15 starts, he has a 1.3 ERA, and then the rest of the season he has like a 5.6 ERA, and he ends with the mid-3s ERA, and people look at that stat line and they're like, oh wow, that's a good pitcher. That's a $25 million a year pitcher. Maybe, but is it worth the trouble of getting to that point? You're replacing what Aaron Nola is floor. Aaron Nola is a high floor pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he's gonna like, what caliber of a pitcher he is. Blake Snell's a ceiling pitcher, and what I mean by that is like Blake Snell at his best is better than Aaron Nola, but Blake Snell at his worst is way worse than Aaron Nola's worst. And said. it's not a swap that makes sense. That's not what we're kind of looking for right now.
Yeah, I think we're both very familiar and have watched enough Blake Snell in our day. I think the people online that are really simping for Blake Snell have never watched the guy pitch in their lives, because everyone, like, I got in like a couple arguments online, and people are like, well, he added a curveball in 2023, so he's going to be the best pitcher ever going forward. I'm like, well, like, that's not how baseball works. I'm sorry, but it doesn't take away the inconsistency he has with control.
Yeah, control. I mean, he's going to win the Cy Young this year, and it's the first time the pitcher who led the league in walks won the Cy Young. How does that even make sense?
I didn't know that. That's wild.
It screams unsustainability, and whoever gives him $25 to $30 million a year, all to you. I just hope it's not us, and I'm slightly worried because I can't rule it out. I can't rule Dombrowski doing something like that out.
I mean, it really comes down to Nola. I think there's a lot of teams.
Please resign him.
I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be boosting this Nola asking price. I think the Cardinals, it's like a top priority for them. Braves are interested. They're cheap as hell, though, so they won't actually give him a real deal. He'll have to donate it all to the Braves Foundation. But Dodgers, Mets, I'm sure they're all interested.
For a lot of teams, and it's
many teams.
It's scary because the more numbers that are getting thrown at him, the less a reunion with Philadelphia is going to look as good. I mean, it's not going to be like people compare it to JT Realmuto's free agency. Completely different.
Yeah,
a frontline starter is much more valuable than JT Realmuto, and I don't think he had a ton of like suitors really during free agency. I think it was us and the Mets.
Basically,
it's just he's so consistent, and he's a very unique pitcher, but it's just so hard to replace what he can do. And I'm getting a little nervous too, but I've been looking at projections, and they're all over the place. I've seen 6 for 150, which sign me up for 6 for 150. Yeah, give me that every day of the year.
Fine. What's the AAV on that?
25 a year? Do you think that's realistic?
No.
You think he'll get what? Do you think he'll get 30 a year?
More.
6 180?
Yeah, 6 180 feels like it should. If he took any less, it'd be stupid on his part.
I'd rather have Aaron Nola 6 for 180 than Blake Snell for whatever. I'm at that. Blake Snell for 6 180?
Hypothetically.
I'd rather have Aaron Nola. I don't want Blake Snell, and I want Aaron Nola, so I guess I'm not the right person to ask about that question.
Yeah. No, I think this is a true testament. I think those of us that truly understand the differences between Nola and Snell, like, know that, like, if you don't see why we need Nola, you're going to next year if he's not on the team. You'll notice the difference. I mean, our bullpen is going to be working way more than we want him to, and I don't want to see what that looks like. And I genuinely think Aaron Nola is going to age well. I know a lot of people have been fighting about that. They're like, I've heard a lot of Aaron Nola's just like asking to blow up as a pitcher, but like I think has a sustainable approach. So I don't know, but the whole thing is getting annoying. I just want the saga to be over.
You ever have Blake Snell on your fantasy team?
Yeah, I never drafted him after that.
Roller coaster. It is just frustrating as hell.
Yeah, you'll get a complete game shutout and then a 4 innings, 6 walks.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah, that's Blake Snell and Aaron Nola. How do you feel about Jordan Montgomery? Because his projections were like just about Aaron Nola's. How do you feel about him as a fallback if Aaron Nola signs?
I don't hate it. I mean, it hasn't been like my top choice necessarily. I feel like if we miss out Nola, we should try to get a little more crafty and get like 2 cheaper options.
Or a trade.
Yeah, or a trade. I think if Nola leaves, I think we might have to get crafty with money, and I don't know. But I like Montgomery, and I think another lefty in the rotation is good.
That would be 3 lefties. That's a lot of lefties. It'd be fine, but that's just
I'm not used to having 3 lefties. It's been a while.
Yeah. The one thing about Montgomery is I think what Aaron Nola, like the role Aaron Nola has in our rotation as that innings eating, durable two starter. I think Montgomery's the most similar type of pitcher available to that. I don't know what Blake Snell is, but he's not a durable two starter who can give you innings, but Montgomery can. So I think that is a name that we should probably talk about on next episode. But that brings us to our last point. I think this is our last point. Did I miss anything?
Nope, we hit it all.
Johnny, do you like to fish?
I like to fish. I only go trout fishing.
Have you ever been trout fishing?
This off season, I don't usually buy into it, but I bought in. I'm in.
I'm in too. I didn't want
it. It finally makes sense.
It does. It does.
It didn't before. It really did not the seasons before.
What has changed your perception on Mike Trout coming to the Phillies? Because over the past 2 weeks, it's just inched and inched closer to.
Well, it's simple.
Accepting it.
It's simple. We got bit by the same thing 2 postseasons in a row, and that is swing and miss from our right-handed power bats. Right-handed bats in general. Even Bohm, who's supposed to be our contact righty, was swinging and missing at all these tough righties. We get absolutely fucking destroyed by like nasty right-handers, and I'm goddamn tired of it. And I think everyone listening is probably tired of us watching Real Muto, Castellanos, Bohm, strikeout. Like, bring in a guy that gets on base more. Stop, even if you have to give up some pieces for it.
It's one of the rare times where it makes perfect sense for both the Angels, Mike Trout, and the Phillies. With Shohei leaving that franchise, they need to start over.
We could bolster them.
Yeah, they're getting to the point where they're starting to realize it. If you're Mike Trout, you've waited kind of your whole life to be on a good quality team that can get you to the postseason. The Phillies are that. And I think a big problem that free agents always have is you come to the city and you have to like earn the city's trust because everybody who comes in here isn't really a Philly guy. And that's like the whole thing with like Philadelphia sports. Like we love our guys and like we consider like the players are guys, Philly guys. There's an attitude that comes along with that. Mike Trout is literally a Philly guy. Like he's from Philadelphia, so he can kind of bypass that. You already know that he understands the city and the sports and just how things operate here perfectly. People have made a big point of the injury concerns, which, yes, they are real.
Yep.
Yes, he's not aging well. Part of that is probably the Angels doing just an awful job managing him. I don't think they know how to do anything right. When he comes here, he'll be in left full-time instead of center, which the fact that they haven't already made that like move full-time is insane. He'll be our full-time left fielder, and we can swap him out with Schwarber at DH, get him off his feet. He doesn't
also worth noting that Schwarber's not on contract that much longer if DH needs to be an option.
That's true. Left field, you already kind of saw the improvements that Brandon Marsh came here just from getting away from the Angels. I think it would be good for him. And, I know the money's a problem, but we have some deep pockets. And John Middleton really, really wants a championship. And there's probably no move that's going to generate more buzz, more momentum, more just good vibes in this city and this clubhouse than reinforcing your team that was one win away from the World Series with Mike Trout, the greatest player of our generation, someone who's born and bred in the Philadelphia region, Jersey guy. He fits the perfect offensive profile that we need. You're plugging him in cleanup right behind Bryce Harper. You're giving Bryce the protection that he needs. And I think Mike Trout's always kind of been the face of the Angels, and he's always carried the weight of their losses very heavily on his shoulders. And when he gets here, he's Mike Trout, but this will always be Bryce Harper's team. And I think that'll be good for him as well, because since he's come up, people have just wanted him so badly to be the face of baseball. But maybe
on
Mike
him.
Trout's just not comfortable with that. Maybe he wants to play kind of the second fiddle, go about his business, and kind of just stay out of the limelight and grind like in the way that he knows how to. And that's perfect because who is the guy who will capture all the attention? It's Bryce Harper, and it will always be Bryce Harper for 9 more years. It's perfect.
You're right though, because we have our face, we have our showman. We need a silent yet beastly sidekick to Bryce Harper, and that would be perfect. It would be perfect.
It's perfect.
And I honestly, even from like a front office perspective, like the Phillies, like Middleton selling like a percentage of his ownership to Stan Middleman, that also signals that like they're getting ready to spend more money than they did last year. I don't think they're done spending like big, and I think we can take on a contract like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have Schwarb's coming off the books in a couple of years, Castellanos. You have
Wheeler,
JT, who's going to be a big, JT. He's not going to get that money when he gets older. A lot of guys coming off the books, and you have a core of Mike Trout, Trey Turner, and Bryce Harper that you kind of just keep throwing at the wall for the next 10 years. And it's probably going to cost us giving up. Well, first off, we're going to have to eat a lot of money. So you're talking, what's he have left? $350 million, which we're talking about it like it's nothing. That's a shit ton of money for a player who's always hurt. So we're going to have to eat a lot of that, and they're going to want prospects back. I think Mick Abel's gone. I think Justin Crawford, they probably are going to bring his name up too. And if it's not Justin Crawford, I mean, Johan Rojas, you can probably say goodbye to. Just keep going down the farm system.
Just don't let Aiden Miller in that package.
Yeah, if your name's not Aiden Miller or Andrew Painter, you're probably on the table. But with all that being said, I mean, in exchange for eating $350 million and giving prospects back, that might be an opportunity to dump one of those contracts we don't want. Taijuan Walker, see ya. I mean, that's the least they could do for us, giving them all those prospects and eating all that money. It fits. Puzzle fits.
But I guess we don't need to discuss this too much longer, but I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Do you see it as like a possibility that like if a Trout trade happens that Castellanos like wouldn't be in the deal? Because the way I see it, like I feel like he's in any deal.
Yeah, I guess it comes back to Nola.
In theory, if like Rojas is in the deal, then like Marsh could slide to center, Trout left, Casty right.
Yeah. I want to say, I think Castellanos would probably be in the deal, but I think I would prefer Walker to be in the deal. I just think that Castellanos,
I also think Taijuan Walker is less value, and I wouldn't want to take him on if I were the Angels, but
yeah, that's true.
That's nice in theory, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you do send, there's so many things happening at once, because if you send Mick Abel away, Aaron Nola has to come back. You need Aaron Nola to kind of bridge the gap until you get to the Andrew Painter era, especially with Wheeler being a free agent in the future. So I think you still need to shore that up before you do anything else, or at least have an answer for that. But it's clear as day how he fits on this team, and I'm all in. I'm ready.
Yeah, I am surprisingly willing to give up players and prospects that I didn't think I would ever want to trade for Trout, but just this timing. I mean, if there was ever a time, it is now.
And as a pitcher, how do you navigate Bryce Harper to Mike Trout? Like, what do you do?
Those guys don't like missing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you could bring in a lefty to face Bryce, but then Mike Trout destroys lefties. Yeah, I don't know. It seems such like a Dombrowski move to make, to just do the most extreme thing possible and just make that flashy move that most rational GMs probably wouldn't do. But Mike Trout's out there, and Yeah, he's not rational, and John Middleton's a rich man, and we could use a left fielder. So, yeah, let's go fishing. Let's go fishing this winter.
Let's catch us as rainbow trout.
Got anything else? I think that's all I got.
No.
This ended up being a long episode.
Yeah, it was good to talk ball again. Seeing this basketball and this football on TV just isn't the same. Not even close. Oh, and congrats to the Rangers. You guys put up a hell of an effort. That was awesome.
Yeah, we should have said that.
But
I'm completely
podcast,
at
not a
peace.
Rangers podcast.
Yeah, completely at peace with the Rangers winning. And honestly, probably would have been a toss-up who won out of us and them. They were a good team. So, maybe it's not a big deal us losing.
Yeah, it would have been a tough series, but I don't do no ifs and buts today.
No ifs and buts. And so November 10th, I have no idea when we'll be back. But next episode, I think we should do the free agent preview. Ideal off-season free agent preview, whatever you want to do. I think we should do it next. Because
essentially next episode. Next episode, we'll predict what happens. We will tell you guys the future. Because that's what we do.
We will. If we didn't already spoil it with my Mike Trout trade. But yeah, next episode's going to be next episode's free agent preview. And yeah, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Just good old go Phils. Baseball season right around the corner.
Yes, opening day will be here soon. And as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you soon.